We continue our Vikings training camp coverage with Robert Mays from The Athletic. We're so happy that you're here for kind of like a yearly trip to Vikings training camp. What do you try to observe when you make stops like this around the NFL?
I think it's just a matter of what teams thought of how last season went and how they want things to be different this year. So just kind of a download on, why'd you make this move? What do you think your weaknesses were on offense and defense last year? How do you want to evolve from one season to the next? So just trying to talk to as many people as you can to get a sense of that.
And what is the sense that you are getting from talking to the Vikings coaching staff and players about what they want to do this season?
Well, it's interesting on offense because obviously it's a new quarterback. So it's a lot of just acclimation, getting used to what Sam Darnold does well, how he sees things compared to what Kirk Cousins did. On defense, it's where there's actually a little bit of continuity, which is interesting. They come in last year and run the most kind of extreme, unique defense in the NFL. Caught a lot of people by surprise. So now it's a matter of how do you build on that? What does the second act of that group look like after really getting to jump on some people last year?
Yeah, you mentioned the unique style of this defense. What do you like about it when you watch it?
It's unlike anything else. I mean, there's so many defenses in the league that share DNA. It kind of feels a little bit rote when you watch it over and over again. When you turn on a Minnesota Vikings game, you are going to get something very different than you were going to get from any other team in the league. And it just makes it exciting. For somebody who watches a lot of football and watches every team in the NFL, just having something that's a slightly different flavor to turn on every single week, I enjoy that.
Yeah, you mentioned that you watch a lot of football. You're also watching and going to a lot of training camps. This is your last division, the NFC North. What has your travels been like this summer?
This is my 21st camp overall, so I've been all over the place. I did LA for a little bit. I was in Seattle for the first time at camp. Did the whole East Coast and got to spend a couple days at home in Chicago this weekend. And I always hit the NFC North last because it's easy to get to. And I typically end up here. Like it seems like every single year, like my birthday is next Monday. So like right around my birthday, I'm always in Minnesota. I always coming home at the end of it. So I love coming up here. I mean, it's a great staff, great people to talk to, and also there's no downside to being in Minnesota in the summer for a couple days.
For this Vikings team, what do you think their biggest challenge will be this year?
It's a great question. I think, figuring out what the identity on offense should look like with Sam and trying to get the most out of him. I think that, the offensive line has been something that's been a concern relatively to some of the other position groups, especially on the interior over the last couple of years. The interior of the offensive and defensive line, I would say, can they get more out of that group than it might look like on paper? And then just building on what they've done in the past. Last year was kind of frustrating. I went back and watched some early Kirk Cousins games yesterday, and you could just really feel a comfort level growing with him and with everybody else on the offense. And to kind of get that yanked away from you and be playing catch up the whole rest of the season, it's difficult. And so now it just feels like this is a soft reset moment. How can we start building on what we had done previously again? And I think that's the main challenge.
So conversely, I'll ask you, what is one thing about this team in particular that excites you?
Oh man, I mean, I'm excited to see some of the new pieces on defense. I guess that's what I would say. Last year, God bless DJ Wanham, but he comes from a very different world than some of the things that they were asking him to do. You bring in a guy like Andrew Van Ginkel, you bring in a guy like Dallas Turner, they're very comfortable doing all of these different things. They've dropped into coverage. They've been used in a variety of ways. So how some of the new defensive personnel kind of better expresses and more comfortably expresses some of the ideas on that side of the ball, I think that's going to be really fun to watch.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Robert. We are so happy that you were able to come stop by at our training camp, and we will continue to watch his coverage on The Athletic Football Show.